Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Renner on this wonderful snowy day in February. Today, we're going to be reading a story that it's a fiction story about going to a bread factory, which I think is kind of fun. And we'll talk a little bit about what the setting means in a fiction story. Okay, so let's get started. Well, today we're going to be reading A Loaf of Fun, and it is a fiction story. A fiction story you might remember from before is just some kind of story about a person or a place or a thing or an idea that is mostly made up. They call it fiction, and I know a lot of you like to say fiction is fake. Even stories that they say, like in movies or TV shows, this is based on a true story, even those are most of the parts are made up. It's just based on a true story. Um, this is a realistic fiction story, and a realistic fiction story is a story that seems like it could happen. It seems like it could be real. The characters, the people, the places, the setting, the problems that happen, because all fiction stories have to have a problem to overcome. They all seem real. They could happen, even though they're fictional and all of the things in it are made up. Even realistic fiction could happen in real life, all of those events, but they didn't. The setting is what we're going to talk about today. The setting are the times and the places where we're going in the story. So the place where we're going today is going to be a bread factory, a factory where they bake and then kind of chop up and put bread into plastic bags for people to buy in stores. This setting is going to be very realistic, but the story itself never actually happens. So we can still learn a lot about factories. I'll just say here, settings can change in the story and they can be in the past, present, or future. All right. We're going to be paying attention in our story today about any words that help us describe the story and put a picture of the setting in our head. Okay. That's called the setting. Remember, the setting, if you're going to need it for your packet work today, the setting is a place and the time where the story takes place. Okay. And as we're going through that, I'm also going to remind you of comparing and contrasting. We're not going to do too much today, but tomorrow we will. Item one, how are those things different? Item two, how is that different? And how are those two items the same? All right. A Loaf of Fun starts on page 298 in your source book. So go ahead and get that going. Okay, as I said, we are on page 298, and you could even see, there it is, you could even see this is a school class here, it looks like, with a tour guide. She even wears one of those things that you see the cooks in restaurant, or even the cooks and the lunchroom people at Valley View who wear those plastic bags over their head. They do that because you're not supposed to get hair in the food if you give it to other people. It's called A Loaf of Fun. This is realistic fiction. Let's pay attention to the setting and pay attention to the fun problem in this story. It was warm inside the bus. Jacob pulled his sweatshirt over his head. His glasses slipped off his nose and skittered across the floor. Crunch! Sorry, said Emily. She picked up the broken glasses and handed them to Jacob. Emily and Jacob were partners on this class trip to a bread factory. Each set of partners had to write a report about what they learned. How is Jacob going to see the factory without his glasses? So, the setting right now, we only know about the inside of the bus. We know that it's warm and that third graders are sitting next to their partner that they're going to write a report about. And we know it's really warm because he had to take off his sweatshirt, and doing that, he ruined his glasses. Right here, okay? And I hope you're following along in your book. We're almost there, Jacob said. How do you know? Asked Emily. Can't you smell that? Said Jacob. Yeah, right, said Emily. It smells like fresh bread right out of the oven. And here is another sense that they're using. Here, up here, we know the temperature, we know what his body feels like, and now we know the smell. The setting has a fresh smell of bread coming right out of the oven. I'm going to stop pointing out some of the details of the setting and I want you to pick them out for me. Okay. The next page. Inside the factory, Jacob's class met their tour guide, Lois. She explained to the class the purpose of each machine in the factory. The first machine weighed the flour and loaded it into a mixer with water and yeast. The mixer made a whirring sound. Next, they saw a machine cutting dough into pieces. The pieces of dough were moved to a warm area to rise. That must be Lois, and she's giving out some bread here. After the dough rises, it goes into the oven, said Lois. After the bread cools, it is sliced up and bagged. Can we taste the hot bread? Asked Emily. Lois asked her helper to pass out slices of warm, delicious bread. Jacob knew what he would write for his report. Even though he hadn't seen everything on the tour, he had smelled, heard, and tasted plenty. Yeah, we talked about what he smelled on the page before. So your job, and you can rewind the video if you need to. What did he hear and what did he taste? You're going to need that. Okay. Matter of fact, you are going to need it right here in your packet work. I already told you what genre this is. You need to figure this out. Okay, I told you a lot about the genre in this video. Who is telling the story? Is Jacob himself telling this story? Does that mean it says I smelled and heard this? We, me and Emily, went into the factory, or was a separate narrator telling the story? That's third person. It said he was going to smell this and he was going to do this. You can decide, is it third person or is it first person? This is good practice. When you get into fourth and fifth grade, you are going to have to know about the narrator and who's telling the story. This is what we are going to practice doing today. Jacob didn't see well on the trip, but what did he smell? What did he hear? And what did he taste? You have to write these things down. Okay? That's your work for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.